Nadia was examined by the doctor, who determined that she was fit to be discharged. This news made her happy, as she would be able to go home sooner than expected. Despite feeling fine, Nadia's doctor, Pavel Yurievich, assured her that she would recover even faster in the comfort of her own home. Without informing her husband, Sergei, who was still at work, Nadia decided to surprise him by making her own way home on the bus. Her bag was not heavy, and she wanted to create a joyful surprise for Sergei. Imagining his reaction when he returned from work to find his beloved wife and a delicious dinner waiting for him, Nadia couldn't help but smile. Sergei had also hinted at a surprise for her, so it seemed only fair. Nadia and Sergei had only been married for 6 months. They had met as witnesses at the wedding of their friends. It had been quite an eventful day, as the bride and groom had a major argument. The bride's ex-boyfriend had shown up and wanted to elope with her, causing jealousy and tension. Nadia and Sergei had spent an hour mediating and successfully reconciling the couple. They could still remember the relief they felt when the newlyweds finally kissed, solidifying their love. It was a reminder of how their own love had played a part in saving someone else's relationship. After 3 months, Nadia and Sergei decided to officially tie the knot by filing a marriage certificate at the registry office. Although they had yet to find their own place and were currently renting a one-room apartment, they lived harmoniously. Both would rush home after work, eager to cook and clean together. In the evenings, they would share intimate conversations under a cozy blanket on the sofa. They embraced each other's flaws and loved every aspect of their relationship, or at least that's what Nadia believed. When she arrived home, she hastily removed her coat and instantly heard voices coming from the bathroom. Nadia's heart raced with fear as she cautiously approached the door. "Honey, you're a miracle," a woman's voice spoke with a breathless and blissful tone. "I adore you, my cupcake." A soft, satisfied male voice followed, accompanied by sounds of sighs and kisses. Nadia froze at the mention of cupcake, horrified by the realization that her partner, Sergei, had brought a stranger into their home to engage in this intimate act. Breathing heavily, Nadia slowly moved away from the door, feeling immensely embarrassed at the thought that they might discover her presence so close by. Her gaze scanned the room and landed on a pile of clothes strewn on the sofa, with a red woman's coat hanging from the top. Nadia thought to herself, she'll surely confront him about this. But then tears welled up in her eyes, and without a second thought, she rushed out of the apartment. Descending the stairs from the 3rd floor in a blur, Nadia burst out of the entrance onto the street. Walking aimlessly, she absent-mindedly wiped the tears from her eyes, unaware of the cold she was subjected to. It was a cloudy and windy day in March, and she had left the house without a coat. Lost in her own thoughts, Nadia couldn't determine how long she had been wandering until an unexpected warmth settled on her shoulders. Surprised, she looked up to find an unfamiliar guy standing before her, draping the edges of his jacket over her chest. "Have you been sick for long?" he asked, his tone laced with reproach. "And just today, from the hospital," Nadia mumbled in response. And the boy cautiously inquired, giving her a sidelong glance, "You're not from the asylum, right?" Nadia shook her head and reassured him, "No, I had my appendix removed." "And now you're back here with angina," he responded, sounding concerned. Nadia quickly clarified, "No, it's not that. I came home and they were in the bathroom." Unable to hold back her emotions any longer, Nadia burst into tears. 15 minutes later, Victor, the new acquaintance introduced earlier, was pouring hot coffee into a large mug in his small but tidy kitchen. Nadia held onto the mug like a child, warming her hands and trying to calm down. She went on to explain what had happened to her. "Nadia, I really have to leave. If I don't show up for work soon, I'll be fired, and I need the money. I left my parents because..." Victor trailed off, realizing it wasn't necessary to share the details. "You stay here. Please don't go anywhere. There's food in the fridge and coffee on the table. Just don't do anything reckless. I'll be back in about 4 hours, and we'll figure out what you should do next. Okay? Nadia nodded, feeling unsure of herself and placing her trust completely in Victor. He left, and she finished her coffee. To distract herself from her troubled thoughts, she began to observe her surroundings in Victor's apartment. Just then, the phone started ringing. Startled, Nadia tossed it onto the sofa. The sound of music filled the room, and she couldn't bring herself to answer the call. "Why aren't you answering?" A woman's voice suddenly exclaimed from behind her. Nadia spun around to find a calmly composed girl standing in the doorway of the room. "Who are you? I'm Nadia. What are you doing here, Nadia?" "Waiting for Victor." The girl observed Nadia, displaying a smirk and shrugging her shoulders. "Vidya is my boyfriend. He's loyal, hasn't been seen going left, at least not yet. Judging by your attire, it's clear you're not here to seduce. Your eyes also seem teary, so I'm intrigued. Tell me, what happened? He brought you home for a reason." Nadia sniffled, her voice quivering as she confided in this unfamiliar girl with kind and understanding eyes. "Nothing is clear, it's a mess. And what does he say?" inquired Vika as she introduced herself. Nadia shared her inability to communicate with him. "All right, let's try this approach," suggested Vika. "Since you don't have any clothes, I'll go on a reconnaissance mission to see if the situation is as gloomy as you describe." Vika hastily dressed herself and soon found herself ringing the bell of Nadia's apartment. The door swung open, revealing a tall girl wrapped in a hastily thrown-on, barely covering her derriere robe. Vika stifled a giggle and glanced behind her. "Did you run over Sergei after all?" she joked. The girl blushed, her cheeks turning crimson with embarrassment. She retorted with a roar. "Ah, you cheeky one. Yes, I'm onto you now," and lunged forward, attempting to grab Vika's jacket. Vika swiftly assessed the danger and dashed out of reach. Thankfully, the girl was not adept at chasing after her. Vika returned to Victor's apartment, slightly out of breath and feeling discouraged. Nadia let out a sad sigh, and Vika sat there, embarrassingly silent. Just then, Vidya entered the room. Upon hearing the girl's story, he offered to personally speak with Sergei. He dialed the number Nadia had provided, putting it on speakerphone, and anxiously waited for a response. "Sergei, your wife is here at my place," Vidya said, his voice filled with concern. "She saw everything and doesn't want to speak with you, but she's without clothes. If you're a man, gather her things and bring them over." A voice finally broke the silence on the other end of the phone, questioning, "Is this some kind of joke?" Vidya replied solemnly, "Actually, my wife is at the hospital. I'm sorry, but I don't have time to talk. I have movers bringing in furniture to our new apartment." Nadia couldn't believe what she was hearing about the apartment and couldn't keep quiet any longer. "What furniture, Sergei?" she interjected. "Oh, so you're really there? What's going on, Nadia?" Sergei asked incredulously. "I'm furnishing our new apartment. It's supposed to be a surprise for you, and you're sitting naked at some stranger's place." Nadia was fortunate to have Vika come to her defense, or explaining the situation would have been even more challenging and time-consuming. As it turned out, while Nadia was in the hospital, Sergei had managed to find an apartment for rent at a very high price, with an option for eventual purchase. He wanted to surprise his wife and even went as far as buying some furniture for the new place. However, when they returned to their current apartment, they discovered that another couple, Galia and another Sergei, had already rented it. Surprisingly, Galia and her partner turned out to be really nice people. Nadia explained the situation to Galia, who quickly waved it off and forgave Vika. To make amends, Galia invited everyone over for a meal of stuffed cabbage. In the meantime, Galia also helped Vika reconcile with Victor's parents, who initially opposed their relationship because of Vika's age. Despite being 3 years older than Victor, Vika won them over with her baking skills, and together with Victor, they presented a magnificent cake to his parents. The cake was so delicious that Victor's parents decided to overlook the age difference and accepted Vika with open arms. This strange twist of events brought these three wonderful couples together and cemented a true lifelong friendship among them.